Right, welcome back to Sport. And as we mentioned before the break, we said you're going to be hosting the Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Mr. Francis Mutuku Wakabi, who is vying for the big one.
Yes, Bernard. Like we said before the break, Paul Tergat's finished. Dr. Tergat has finished his 2 terms, so it's time for us to see who is the next man in charge of our Olympics for the next 4-year cycle. And we have 2 candidates. I think it's pretty obvious. We've had 2 candidates. We've got Francis Mutuku, who is the outgoing Secretary General, and we've got Shadrach Maluki, who is the outgoing
Vice President.
First Vice President.
Yes.
First Vice President. So the tussle is really between the 2 camps. There's 2 camps. There is one, they have different names and different manifestos, but literally, those are the 2 horses.
Absolutely. Now, one of those horses we had invited, obviously, no, of course, I'm not saying it literally, is, of course, the first Vice President, Shadrach Maluki. We had invited him on the show. Of course, we wanted to have an interaction himself as well as Francis Mutuku ahead of the 2025 NOCK elections, but he excused himself and he said he would not be able to make it for this interview. So we actually reached out to him and he politely declined our request to come to studio. So Wakabi, I think the first question you need to ask Mr. Francis Mutuku is, why the presidency? Why do you want to lead NOCK? Your role as Secretary General, as it is also quite a very influential role, but you want to go one step higher. Why?
Thank you and good evening. It's very interesting because sometimes you think back and reflect, why do you want to go for this position? But having served the National Olympic Committee as the Secretary General in the last 8 years, within a very, very good, what I believe, transformative team, we found we are coming towards the end, and we have quite a bit of legacy which we put in place. We've had a great impact, and we've transformed the sports. And when you look forward, you wonder, what is the next step? You do not want any of what we've done to be lost. You do not want the trajectory which you already created to be lost. And therefore, I've stepped out to provide a vision for where I feel personally the National Olympic Committee should be in the next 8 years or even 10 years, from the experience of 8 years having been part and parcel of practically every aspect of the sport. But most importantly, having worked under the leadership of Dr. Paul Tergat and working with a team which has given me a very good opportunity to be able to see what we can be able to achieve. And therefore, what I and the team which has joined and shared my vision are presenting to our voters and to sports, specifically the Olympic and Commonwealth movement, and in general the sports in the country, is a vision of continuing service, a vision of continuing to transform the sports, a vision of practically ensuring that our sports is something respectful, is something which people want to associate with. And we are very proud that very many people want to be part of the National Olympic Committee. When we came, it was something people wanted to run away from, because obviously of the previous experience. But this shows that we can be able to do something to attract people, and there are very many people willing to serve, which is good. So I'm here to serve, to innovate and elevate our sports.
How different is it when you're fighting for the top post as opposed to fighting for the SG seat?
Very, very different. The experience in the last 2 months has taught me a lot. Has taught me a number of things which people expect. I'm also, you know, they say to survive in this world, you must always unlearn, learn, and relearn. I've unlearned a lot of things. I'm learning and I'm continuing to learn. The first thing is on humanity, literally, relationships between people. And secondly, that at the end of the day, a lot of things which matter are personal. Personal to the people who make decisions, personal to the voters, personal to the federations. And therefore, when you are running as a Secretary General, you are under the cover of the person who is the president. Like the last 2 electoral processes, as I was running for Secretary General, previously Deputy, then Secretary General, the focus was more at the top level. But right now, everything is associated with you, whether it's your team members, whether it's the vision you have, whether it's something which somebody has said in your team, you carry that burden. But I believe it's a good thing because it starts preparing somebody for the leadership. Because I believe what we've gone through the last 2 months in terms of issues arising, in terms of decisions we need to make, in terms of collaborations we need to build, in terms of the team we need to build, it's a preparation, and for that matter, a very, very good preparation for for the next years in terms of leadership. I think as a leader now you become the central focus. While as Secretary General, all you needed to do was ride alongside the person who was the leader then, and as the leader goes through then, yours is simply to continue supporting that particular vision. Now you have to carry the vision, you have to share the vision, and to have to hope that people can be able to buy into it.
How hard is it? How do you guys end up putting, when you're putting together your team, what's the phrase of your team?
It's Team Serve.
Team Serve?
Yes.
How does it all come together? How does one put it together, and how hard is it to be able to figure out that these are the guys we share a commonality of goal, commonality of vision, and this is the way we are going together?
Pretty much a political affair. A lot of it, not so much deliberate planning, but a consequence of discussions which have happened, a consequence of relationships which you've built. And to just give an example, when somebody expresses a wish to run for a position, like when I expressed my wish to run as the president, there were several candidates who were being fronted. And so at the initial point, there were a lot of discussions. Should you still continue, or should we give certain other people an opportunity? So the discussions start happening at that point. Should people in the same executive go against each other in terms of the seat, or should they support each other? Different elements, different discussions, different proposals coming up until it starts refining itself slowly by people first who believe in what you're offering, people who have seen your track record, and people who share values. And I think, I must say, sharing of values is probably the most important thing I've realized, that we have people just coalesce around because of the values they have and a strong vision for sports. Our team, I say very proudly, is a team which clearly understands that leadership is about service. They understand that sports can be great if we all come together and if we all work towards a common goal. And therefore, it's not so much when you see people in different camps that they are opponents. We are all in sports. We keep competing every time. So you just find, today I'm cheering this team and I want it to win. It doesn't mean the other people are by, it just means these people are either well prepared, they resonate well with what I believe, and more importantly, they have a vision of what my federation shares in terms of the future for sports.
What will Team Serve bring to the table that's different from what we've had over the last 8 years? Why should people trust you to lead our Olympic committee for going forward?
Pretty much what you've said. Nothing different from what has happened in the last 8 years. In fact, it is saying, you've seen what we can do. We want to continue that good work, but we want to elevate it. We are saying that we've learned, we've experienced, we've built collaborations, we've built programs which we know are tentative. And just to give you a background of the last 8 years, how the 8 years were. The first 8 years was simply to correct a lot of mistakes, to correct a lot of challenges which were there. The National Olympic Committee had a lot of debt, had a lot of court cases, had a lot of problems. The brand name was at probably the lowest ever. So that's what we were able to correct in the first 4 years. The next 4 years, the team started now to put a base in terms of what needed to be done. And the base has been put very, very strong. That's why we talk of structures. That's why we can proudly say, even as we go through the campaign period, the office is still running. The office, if somebody wants services from the National Olympic Committee, they can go there tomorrow. They can go there on 23rd. They can go there on 24th when election happens, because there are strong structures which did not require a gatekeeper. For example, a Secretary General who needs to sit at the door so that he's seen as the one who is dishing out opportunities. But a system which understands that this is service to sports, and you do just need to qualify in particular areas, in particular criteria to be served in whichever way you want. Most importantly, the team understands that they are there to serve the dreams of our athletes, the dreams of our sports people. That's the system we put there. Now the next level is to grow. And that's why we are coming with to serve, because we believe leadership across from the National Olympic Committee to even the federations. And that's why we are proud that a lot of people associate with our values are also trying to work their federations together, so that, because that's important, that is the home area of every federation. The next thing is to innovate. We are saying sports is doing very well in Kenya, but there's technology. We know there's the International Olympic Committee AI agenda. So we need to bring a team which can be able to appreciate where sports is going for the next 20 to 30 years, and to be able to say in Kenya, we need to approach sports in a different way. We need to incorporate technology in our operations and in the performance of our sports people. And thirdly, we are saying after we serve, we innovate, we must elevate our sports. We are a great sporting nation, but we want to be a great sporting nation which translates into something. Like if we say we are the top nation in sports, what is the revenue which we generate from that particular sports, and what tables should we be so that when the national discourse of any matter is being discussed, then sports is represented? How can we say that our sports legends are great enough that when we are talking of diplomacy, when we are talking of tourism, it's our sports legends who are in the forefront because they need no introduction in the world. So you can imagine the impact our sports people can be able to make if the right people sit at the right tables and ensure that they are seated not to keep quiet, but to sit and advocate for what is best for sports, advocate for the transformational nature of sports, which can occupy the current problem of the youth, where we are saying from the grassroots level or the top, we need a leadership which can see that potential and which can be able to transform it into something which can raise the country.
SG, I like how you've of course, to some extent, segued into now giving an idea of your pillars, because that touched on it in different aspects. But you had structured them into 5 of them. I just got there briefly in terms of, you talked about technology and innovation, financial stability. These are just some of your pillars. Help us understand what informed the formulation of these 5 pillars, because it's athletes' welfare and development, elite athletes' performance, organization sustainability, financial sustainability. You've touched on technology and innovation. What informed the formulation of these pillars as you vie for the presidency?
As I said from the beginning, during this process, it has been a process of unlearning, learning, and relearning. And it's been a very good process because you get people to give you very fair, objective feedback of how the leadership, how the activities have been. And one of the big questions was, what do you think are the needs of the athletes currently, the needs of the federation currently, and the needs of sports in general? That is where we started. And therefore, to come to the athletes level, we found there are 2 levels of athletes. There is just that athlete who just wants to enjoy sports. They just want to go have a nice time over the weekend, or they just want to go for fitness. They are not at elite level. So there are some particular needs of that. And we are looking at the most basic one. All the parents are putting their children through a school program. They are putting them through, they have big ambitions for them, like they want them to be doctors, engineers, etc. What about a parent who wants their children to be a good sports person? We are saying there must be a pathway where, you know, if I start a particular sport, how many lessons do I need to do as introductory? How many lessons do I need to do as intermediate, advanced? And at what level should I start playing competitions? That's why we're talking about the pathway being very, very critical. And we are saying at that particular level of sports development, just development, we need to collaborate. Like over the weekend, I was at Mombasa for the Kenya Secondary Schools Sports Association Games, and you could see 2,000 great athletes. And the question is, what happens after they leave school? What are the clubs, what are the institutions which can be able to absorb them to continue learning school? And we have safety, which is very important nowadays to teach them. We have to teach them about the clean competitiveness, that we don't have later problems of either manipulation or doping. So we have to start teaching them the very basic values of sports, so that as they grow, they become not just good sports people, but good human beings. So that was the thinking around the sports development. Then we differentiated that with what we call the elite sports. Elite sports are probably what a lot of people associate with. The people who win medals, the people who win matches, the people who do very well.
The athletes.
The athletes. Those are the, and at elite level. Elite level are the people who we are saying right now, we need to be knowing where our athletes are who are going to represent us in LA 2028. And we also need to be brave as we look at LA 2028, we are looking at Brisbane 2032. And the perfect one will be able to say, right now, we have teams preparing for the next 2 editions of Olympics, but we also have our fingers strongly on 2036. We are still waiting to see which city will be given, most probably one in the Asian continent, but that's what we'll be looking at. And we've said that for a long time. We've looked at sports, and every August after Olympics, we always have the same story. We could have done better, we could have won medals, we could have sent athletes. And we want now to change that conversation and that narrative and start saying, can we start preparing for our major Olympics, our major games right now? And therefore, one of the actions around that pillar is to ensure that the management team of LA 2028 is put in place by June this year. Why? Because they're able to focus on what we call Olympic qualification pathways. A lot of times, athletes do not qualify simply because they did not know what the pathway was. They need to know which event they need to, because of course we have very limited resources, where they need to know which event they need to go to, and it has to be a strategic decision that you have limited resources and you need to send these athletes to various events to be able to earn what we call ranking points, to be able to prepare, to be able international. It pains us, Bernard, when you see during one of the major games, one of the documentation you need to do is a passport. It simply means you are sent in your top athlete to an international competition and they have never gone for any friendly international match. The first thing they go out is culture shock. And before they settle to be able to compete, time is gone. So we are saying elite sports must be elite sports. We must give them the support. And support sometimes is the simplest of things. Like when we put a team for Olympic camp, they were just happy to have 3 square meals. It might be as basic as that. So that's what we are looking in terms of athletes. Then we go to organizational stability. And you can see, even as we go towards the elections, one of the challenges is around federation structure, federation governance, and federation leadership. Not just at federation level, at the Olympic Committee level, at umbrella committee level, at clubs level, at branch level. We are saying we need to build capacity. We know that a lot of us as leaders come into a leadership position out of a political process. And therefore, if you come through a political process, you need to be capacity built through an administrative process. So we are saying everybody who leads a federation, anyone who comes even to NOCK itself, we should have programs to be able to train us in terms of administration.
Somebody would say, wouldn't that have been achieved during your tenure as well? Some of these things that you would want to do?
They have been achieved. Like when we talk of administration courses, we've done for practically all the federations at leadership level, but you realize this is an evolving system. And it is out of what we've done that we see where the gaps are. That the gaps cannot be just at the top because we'll be able to address the top. Now we need to go below the top to be able to address just the entire system of executive committee level. So some of them, that's why we are saying we are building.
They've already been implemented.
We are building on to the legacy which has been put in place to be able to maintain the trajectory of administrative programs to ensure that our organizations are stable. And not just stable in terms of governance, they're also stable in terms of funding. As you see, our funding model from the government perspective is not structured the way we would want. We want it to be much better. So collaboration.
What would be your ideal scenario?
Our ideal scenario would be an allocation of funding every year to federations. And I'll give an example. The National Olympic Committee, after we came in, we started allocating a grant amount to federations every year. This was basically to cater for their affiliations, to cater for their basic administrative expenses. But that's not enough. What the National Olympic Committee provides is not enough. You can imagine a situation where the government was saying, every year, there'll be a certain bare minimum amount to be provided to federations for their administrative purposes. We accuse most of them for being briefcase, but they do not have funding. Yes, somebody might say they need to attract sponsorship, correct, but it is what comes first. You need the structure in place first, you put the administrative structure in place, then you can be able to attract, a lot of funding. And a simple way is what we've done with the National Olympic Committee. When we came, we did not have a full complement of staff. We started with the intern programs from universities. People who love the sport, people would love to come and volunteer services. So all federations have such people who can be able to come and volunteer to start building it to be a stable organization. Financial stability, not so much the money aspect, but the brand aspect. We are proud that currently under the leadership of Paul Tegat, who is a legend by himself, we're able to transform Team Kenya into a brand which people want to be associated with. And we are very proud. They normally say if you want to know a brand is great, if it goes all the way and it's in the bars, it's in the matatus, it's in public places. And we've seen people use Team Kenya brand in practically all spaces. It means the public is starting to associate with it. Most importantly, they're starting to get in love with the brand. Now, we want that brand to continue being built because once the brand is strong, once the brand is good, we are able to attract corporate sponsorship.
Right.
Once the money comes in, then it can be able to trickle down to the athletes, because the end goal of all these organizations is every funding which comes must go down to the athlete,
right,
so they can be better prepared, better equipped.
Right, of course, remember we had mentioned that we had invited the other candidate who is vying for the presidency, and that is Mr. Shadrack Maluk. And just to, of course, to reflect on his team, let's take a look at the team that he's lined up. We've seen the team that Francis Mutuku has. Let's take a look at the team that Shadrack Maluk has. Obviously, he's vying for the presidency. He's involved with judo. And there's also the first deputy president, Barnaba Korir. He's keen on that particular role. He's from the athletics. And then the second deputy president, Colonel Nahashon Randiek. Secretary General Andrew Mudibo, that's what he's vying for. He comes from the table tennis team. And then we also have the other positions, Deputy Secretary General Francis Karogo, Treasurer Fred Chege, Deputy Treasurer Charles Mose, Committee Member Sasha Mutai. And then for the other respective positions, we have Committee Member Suleiman Sumba from Taekwondo, Committee Member Jocelyn Nyambura, and then Women Representative Mududa Waweru. There's, of course, some bits that are missing from this, and it was intentional because we needed to understand one thing, because the athletes representative should be there as well for the male and the female. They had stated their respective choices, but and today the Athletics Kenya has released a press release and stated that Eliud Kipchoge will be the athletes representative. Just, they said they have nominated. Help us understand how those two roles are selected.
Within the National Olympic Committee constitution, there are two options of getting to the athlete representation. The first one is that the athletes themselves, formed in different commissions across all the federations, elect one among them to be the athlete representative. That is the ideal model. That is the same model International Olympic Committee uses. You'll find that, like Humphrey Kayange, when he was elected, it was during the Olympics in 2020, Tokyo Olympics. All the athletes who were in the Olympics program were able to cast their vote for their preferred athlete. That would have been the National Olympic Committee executive preferred model.
Yes.
However, when the executive sat and looked at the formations of the commissions and whether they were in place, they found quite a number of federations did not have athletes commission. Therefore, the executive reverted to the second option. And the second option is that federations nominate the athletes. And the executive, obviously under the wise leadership of Dr. Paul Teger, found that if we expose athletes to that particular process, we'll be able to do what we are doing right now. Putting athletes in camps, pitting one athlete against another athlete. So the executive advised, and this was an advisory, because obviously the Constitution does not provide for that. The Constitution provides for competitiveness, but it was an advisory to our federation that those who qualify to be athletes rep are well known. It is anyone who has participated in the Olympics in the last 2 terms. That means Paris 2024 and Tokyo 2020. So if any athlete has participated, they are eligible to be voted in as an athlete rep. And so all the federations who were the athletes in those 2 editions were told to sit together and discuss, agree on 2. But we also felt athletics plays a central role in the Olympics. And therefore, that was a slot for male athlete representative was reserved for Athletics Kenya. And I guess that's why today, Athletics Kenya has gone, just like was anticipated, that they have nominated a great athlete. The second one was any other, now it would be a female athlete. It would come from any of the other federations who have participated. Again, the advisory, and I repeat, advisory, not mandatory, the advisory was that the federation leadership would be able to sit, discuss and agree. That is the process which is ongoing. We hope that just like the executive anticipated, we at least it's a compromise. There is no competitor for Eliud Kipchoge. That's nice. And we are hoping that even for the female athlete rep, between now and 23rd midnight, there can be a compromise where 2 athletes are not pitted against each other, at least not this time and not at this time. And the executive also advised immediately after the elections, then all federations will be required to ensure that they have athletes commissions so that in the 2028 elections, they can be able to...
So the athletes commission is one to elect.
Can be the one to elect.
How much of horse trading happens in this thing? How much of shadow boxing and things like that happen? How tough is it? Because we just saw the Gore elections. And like Bernard said, there was an SDT ruling, there was tear gas, there was... how hard is it to get your team together to get to April the 24th?
Pretty tough. It's pretty tough. It comes down to social aspects, relationship aspect, shared values and shared goals. That's what probably drives. In an ideal world, it would have been assumed that, just like the International Olympic Committee outgoing president said, he said individuals do not compete for positions. Individuals stand up, present their visions, sell their visions, and people are able to compare the different visions which have been presented, and based on that, then people are able to elect. So would have hoped and expected that federations would have looked at the different individuals who are willing to serve, who are ready to serve, make an assessment of their capability. Not based on promise, we cannot promise anything right now. Based on their performance, based on their values, based on proven experience. And then they look alongside their federations. What are their federations' aspirations? What are their federations' plans? What are their federation goals? Like we know, we are going towards LA 28. But before we reach LA 28, this year we have the International School Games in August in Algiers. We have the African Youth Games in Maputo in December. We have Glasgow Commonwealth Games in Scotland next year. And we have Dakar 2026 Olympics. And then we have African Games in 2027. African Beach Games in Equatorial Guinea in 2027. So our federation would have looked at, we have these particular programs as we go towards LA 28. Who are the best people to ensure that our athletes are given the best possible preparation, the best possible opportunity, and that with this particular team, with this particular vision, and this track record, we can be able to trust these particular people to do it. That's an ideal world. But in this particular world where we are a politicized society, then you find, if I'm talking to you, Okabi, and I need your vote, I also have to check what are your needs. Not so much as a federation, as an individual. Would you like to also be in the team? Would you like to be a committee member? Then you can come in. What is the trade-off? That you elect me as a president, will support you for a committee member. Or how would you like to serve the National Olympic Committee? You would like to serve in the commission, you would like to be in the management, you would like to be in one of these particular areas. Those are the discussions which go on. And sometimes the past is forgotten, and the short-term future discussions almost enable people to make a decision.
Tell me something, Francis. Is the fact that you are essentially Paul Tergat's right-hand man, has that worked for you or against you? Do you think it gives you pluses or it gives you minuses? The fact that you are almost the face of the outgoing office. I mean, it was Dr. Tergat. So does that work for you or against you?
It works perfectly for me because I've stood on shoulders of a giant, and therefore people have seen me. If I had not stood on that shoulders of that giant, people would not have seen me, people would not have known me, people would not have known that somebody from tennis can be able to have the ability to be able to administer a very, very critical umbrella body of sports in our country. The fact that I worked with him, probably the person I traveled most with across the country, and all the time practically at his shadows, because he's a legend, he's a great man. And therefore, as he worked, I'm learning. I might have looked like I'm doing things, but it was all approved, all agreed at the executive level. But obviously, our passion is too great for it to be put in a box. So sometimes it looks like it's big, but we are going according to the leadership which is provided. And therefore, I look back and say, Dr. Paul Tergat has given me an opportunity to dream that I can be the leader of the organization because of the opportunity. Secondly, I think I had what a lot of secretary generals would say was a dream president. A president who allows you space to do very many things. And because of allowing you that space, very secure, because a lot of people would be insecure, wondering who told you to go for that media event, who told you to make that announcement, who told you to do that. But Dr. Paul Tergat is very secure that he does not have to worry, because he knows what he has achieved, and he knows that everything is for the best of the organization. And it is out of that particular excellent working relationship, not just for me, but for the other executive members, from the treasurer, from the committee members, from the deputies, from even the deputy president, because of that particular, that you find all of us want to continue serving. And obviously for me, gives me that platform to be able to move forward and say, yes, we learned and continue learning, and I believe I present a vision which will be very, very good for our country.
Francis, thank you so much for joining us on Sport, and we wish you all the best for the elections on the 24th of this month. Wakabi, let's shift gears and take a look at the shot of the weekend, where we get an opportunity to appreciate the skills of our colleagues in the photography department. It's good to see Mr. Chris Omolo back. Of course, he is back from compassionate leave, Wakabi, and he was covering the Gor Mahia elections this past weekend. And this one is just a very unique, very simple, special moment. It tells you that it was all-inclusive in terms of exercising the democratic right for Gor Mahia supporters.
I smile because when you say Chris Omolo is back, I just smile at it, because I'm like, you know, it wouldn't be any other way that Chris Omolo pitched himself at Kogalo elections. And of course, that picture it says a lot. It says about, you know what, this is what membership is for Kogalo.
Yes.
Everyone is included in it, and everyone eager to make sure that they secure the club's future. And that is why the election was there, as hotly contested as it was. And it's because the people who make the decisions came up and decided, you know what, we are going to do this. We are going to make sure we elect the guys for the next 4 years. And that gentleman there saying, you know what, I should be here, I will do it, and he did it.
Absolutely. Now, let's take a look at On the Timeline, Wakabi. And the first one I think we need to reflect on is, I know the previous week we were focusing on the Harambee Stars captain, former Harambee Stars captain Victor Wanyama, got a red card. But this past week, Wakabi, he was in the headlines for the right reasons. Let's take a look at this photo that was shared on social media, Wakabi. It's very special. He met this mascot many years back.
Yes, Bernard, you're talking about 12 years ago, Ross was a mascot alongside Victor Wanyama at Celtic Park. And then today, he got to meet his hero again at Hampden Park. Thanks to Wanyama for being such a class act then and now, moments like this mean the world. I just wonder what that means for that young man, because when you see the picture, it's him as a young boy, yeah, and then now him as a grown-up there. Yeah. And it's so special because it must mean something to them. It must mean so much to him. And look, the one thing we must always give Victor is that he's a good-natured fella. He's a nice, good, quiet, humble guy, does not just minds his own business, and really, really down to earth. And I think that's really good. Also gives you a sign into what Watu wa Maju, let me use that word. You know, they follow things, They follow things. Things that you would think, today if I asked someone, so where are the ball boys for the last time Kenya played home before Gabon?
No one knows.
Yeah, but they keep... Remember they had one of Sheikh Tiote's son at a Newcastle game. Just there's something, small things that create such legacies and such things.
Because it's more than just football.
Yeah.
It has a lot of more, like it has much more meaning than just kicking the ball on the grass.
It just adds a lot of value to the whole thing. You keep talking about the word ecosystem. It just tells you how that boy is feeling, how Sheikh Tiote's son was feeling. Why wouldn't that person continue supporting Celtic over and over and over again, and their kids and the kids of their kids? I think it's a very, very nice thing.
Right. Wakabi, earlier in the show you mentioned that Uganda has qualified for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Of course, it's something that has to be revered and celebrated. And FIFA shared this particular post. They gave a bit of history. They said, look, the first time ever that Uganda is going to be at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. We did it first, though, for the girls, but this is for the boys. So there will be an expanded World Cup, Wakabi.
That's the only qualifying statement that makes it feel a bit lukewarm. Because it's expanded, it's 48 teams.
But they've qualified at least.
Yeah, it's 48.
Now, the interesting thing, Wakabi...
Now, when our girls qualified...
It was different.
It's like 48 is half a century of teams. Half a century. How many teams are in FIFA? 205, 206? It's a quarter of FIFA members are going to the World Cup.
Now, Africa, which I found very fascinating,
yes.
I wish they would emulate the same kind of allocation. Do you know how many teams Africa has in that 48?
How many?
10.
Not bad. The big one, we have 9. Yes.
I think, no,
I think so. No, the current one.
Yes,
See, this is expanded one.
Yes.
So even the World Cup is coming is expanded one.
Yes.
I think we'll have 9.
We should
if
have
I'm
9.
not wrong.
Yes.
So it matches up. It's fine. It's good. And this is the one we win a bit a lot. The under 17, under 20, that one we win a lot. It's the big one that becomes a problem.
Things become a bit difficult.
Yeah, let's not go into why.
Now, a gentleman who has been having a bit of a bother is Ruben Amorim, in terms of his goalkeeper issues, and he's been a bit of a pickle, a bit uncomfortable. So a lot of flack regarding Onana, the previous game. So he decided, look, let me bench him.
You know that famous phrase that Gen Z made famous last year, when pressure creases? Yeah. So that's exactly what happened.
So this is a guy now who shared on X and said, look, this is how Onana was looking at his replacement.
Because his replacement came in and conceded 4.
Yes.
And really didn't look like he was any upgrade on him.
Yeah,
United have been terrible. They've been terrible. I know everyone keeps on saying, oh, let's wait until he gets his team. I think United have been absolutely
And remember what I said some while back, Wakabi, when Amorim was selected, I said, and of course things started going south quickly, I said, I think he beat more than he could chew, which is...
Yes.
But anyway, as you explained, you said, if you're given an opportunity to coach one of the most famous clubs in the world, who would refuse?
You take it. It's curious because since he took over in the Premier League, he's played 21 games. He's won 6. He's drawn 5. He's lost 10.
He's won 6.
Yes, out of 21. When he took over versus where they are today, actually, Bernard, if you just indulge me and you look at the difference of when he took over and where United are today, in all your life of watching football, Bernard, and you've watched it for a while, I don't know whether you ever saw United in 14th position. United are on 38 points.
And somebody said something interesting. Of course, the teams that are below them, if they had been firing on all cylinders, then
it would be a relegation battle.
Totally different story for Manchester United this season.
There's every likelihood they might not get more than 3 points between now and the end of the season. But anyway, who knows?
Right, now, Wakabi, this other update on social media, it feels like deja vu. Because I remember 2014, I was at the FIFA World Cup in Brazil.
Yes.
And when Luis Suarez, Aliuma, Giorgio Cellini of Italy,
yes.
it was such a, like, there was so much noise because he was banned for like 4 months.
Yes.
This time round, Aliuma nani?
I think he can't help himself, to be honest.
Because you can see there was a bit of a kerfuffle. He plays for Inter Miami. Look at there.
Yes.
Jordi Alba pulling him and then, Makitu. Why? Why? Like, you can... I'm just trying to understand. Why are you biting your teammate, Wakabi?
I think he's not sure.
He knew. His hand was around him.
No, I think he's not sure. I think you have to bite. He's just not sure who.
Look. Look, he has his hand. He knew. He could see the
That's what I'm saying. No, you're biting, but you're not sure what you're biting. You're just biting.
But why bite?
It's an instinctive reaction.
Like, I can only imagine this. And I think he realized it's like...
That's what I'm saying. It's an instinctive reaction.
I wonder how he was as a kid. Because anyway, a bit of history, Wakabi. I touched on 2014. He was banned for 4 months because of biting Cellini at the FIFA World Cup. He had done that a year before.
Yes.
Against Chelsea.
Yes.
He beat who?
Was it Chelsea? I can't remember who he beat.
It was Chelsea. He beat Ivanovic.
Ivanovic. Yeah, Branislav, yes.
Akadungwa 10-match ban.
That's what I've said, Brad. Would he do that intentionally? I don't think so. I think it's an instinctive thing. It's
very weird.
You know the way something... Then you realize...
very weird. Like, it's very weird because... Like,
his instinct is to bite.
It's like, what an hume.
Yes, I'm saying his instinct is to bite.
Why would you bite? It reminds me of when we were young and then, like our mothers, they tell us, look, we have to behave. There's a way when they bite like this.
Yes.
You're in trouble. Your mom does that.
Yeah, so I think he has no clue what's going on. I think, to be honest, I think it's an instinctive thing. You know the way, for example, if something is bothering you, maybe, for example, maybe you scratch.
Yeah.
If something is bothering you or you twitch, the people who have a twitch, I think him is to bite.
I think just bites. Very, very,
That's why else would you bite your teammate? I understand Ivanovic, I understand Chiellini, but your own teammate.
Okay, let's move on. And let's take a look at how Nike has honored McIlroy, Wakabi. Let's take a look at how Nike has honored McIlroy because of his performance at the Masters, Wakabi. That video was just something else. It's like they were waiting for it, Wakabi. Let's take a look and see how they appreciated their star.
To a place amongst the immortals. It's a walk he's made many times before. But this time, it just feels like destiny.
Standing on this mountain takes my mind mind back to Georgia many years ago.
This walk just looks different with the Grand Slam. From a teenage prodigy to a place amongst the immortals. It's a walk he's made many times before. But this time, it just feels like destiny.
Standing on this mountain takes my mind back to Georgia many years ago when I was just a babe.
I like the creativity. It was waiting for you.
It's insane.
And foresight.
Sunday pickup. Because Masters ends on Sunday.
Yes.
Secondly, was always waiting for you because he's waited. He's tried, was it the 11th time? More than 10 times. He kept getting close, then missing. Getting close, then missing. And even last night, early this morning, because believe it or not, Bernard, I stayed up to watch the entire final round because there was so much noise about him and destiny. Remember, how many guys have ever won all the majors? He's only the 6th.
Wow.
He is only the first one in 25 years to do it. The last one was Tiger.
It's phenomenal. It's something else.
So it's something so big. And then this is a prodigy. This is a guy who there are videos of him as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old playing, hitting golf balls into his mother's washing machine. So he was a prodigy from Kitambo. So for him to step up all the way and for Nike to just wait, because every year everyone went there and wondered what's going to happen to McIlroy. Will he do it this time?
And the time he was struggling with injury as well.
I was beautiful. It was, let me tell you, that playoff, because he missed it on the 18th. If he makes his part on the 18th, he wins it. He missed it. They went into a playoff with Rose, who was incredible, who hit 10 birdies on the final day. 10.
He was on fire.
He was on fire. Then they went on to the finish. And I've got to say something about the coverage because I watched it. They had almost 7 minutes from when he sunk his winning putt to when him walking out. The commentators had only 46 words in 6 minutes and 47 seconds. Just 46 words. They let pictures speak for itself, and it's so emotional. When you get time, just watch from when he scores, and then all the way to him walking up, meeting his... It was brilliantly, brilliantly produced.
Now, let's shift gears and take a look at something else that was phenomenal, Wakabi, because this is a football phenom meeting a musical phenom, a musical icon. I must be honest, I didn't know this connection. I didn't know that Lionel Messi's name was inspired by Lionel Richie.
I like that, like Lionel Messi meets...
There we go, they met each other.
It's
Lionel meets Lionel.
It's an icon versus an icon.
Yes.
Living legend versus living legend. I don't think there's anything more to add to it. It's one of the greatest guys, because Lionel Richie is ridiculous.
Yes.
Was absolutely one of the all-time greats versus the man who many consider the best ever football player.
Finally, if you're an Arsenal fan, that goal, that flurry of those 2 goals that Declan Rice scored, it inspired a lot of memes, a lot of interesting things. But this one was a Kenyan edition, and I loved it. Let's take a look at how somebody shared this. So somebody shared, of course, Wakabi's favorite. But then, just for information, Wakabi sees this, and his mind is immediately thinking of chapati, beef stew, and cabbage.
Yes.
But somebody asked, we'll just go back to it. Somebody asked, is that rice at the top right corner?
Such a creative,
witty, private figure, fantastic. And on that note, rice, chapo, beef, that's our appetite for Wakabi as we finish Spot On. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Bernard Ndong from the entire team who made it possible. But before we go, of course, Wakabi, there's something special as well in terms of One Expert.
Yes, Bernard, we constantly have got to keep reminding you that there's so much for you to do, especially if you are big on gaming, especially if
April. There's a lot happening.
You want to make something. You can't just watch sports.
Because the Spanish Super Cup, Spanish Super Cup. Shush. We're hungry. We're thinking of chapos and rice.
Yes, of course. There's so many games coming up, Bernard. And like you said, look, the key thing is you elevate your game with the One Expert new promotion. Big match. So it's tailored for, it's particular. It's tailored just for African football fans. And it brings excitement right to your fingertips. Like I said, follow the enthusiasts to place your bet on the biggest matches and enjoy exclusive bonuses. It goes on from April 1 all the way to May 31st. So all those finals that are coming, all those semi-finals that are coming, that is where you go at it. And what do you do once again? The keyword is the promo code. KETVAPR25. That is the key thing. Whenever you're signing up with, that's the promo code. KETVAPR25. And you can claim up to 20,000 bob in terms of this when you sign off using that promo code, and more importantly, big part of the big match. Like you said, so many big matches coming up.
Absolutely. Well, that marks the end, as I said, of Sport On. Once again, we appreciate your time and attention. Have a fantastic one. Hope to see you again very soon.